The pit was there, the cement was there, and most importantly, a pile of bones was exactly where they had been claimed they would be. The information leading to the field just outside the Lessie was proving to be reliable. Everyone knew whose bones they saw being dug up before their eyes. There was a reason that for the last 2 years Vasilis Souflas had disappeared in the night, and now they had him in front of them. He was dead. The coldest Greek executioner had met the same fate he reserved for his victims, except that he would find his fate at the hands of his most trusted partner, from the man he himself initiated into his gang. Vasilis Souflas was the main assassin in the crime syndicate, the criminal organization that became known by this name and operated in the late 80s until the mid-90s. Robberies, extortions, executions of death contracts at reasonable prices, sometimes even with January sales, but also wild vendettas that led to the extermination of its members, characterized the almost 10 years of activity of the organization. 4 generations of mobsters, where one took over from the other and where almost all of them would eventually end up dead in one way or another. Souflas ascended from the first moment into the hierarchy of the organization, founded by Andonis Piplas, together with Vasilis Kaltsa and Theodoros Katifidis. After a series of successful robberies, they gained a name for themselves in the underworld, and one by one, the godfathers will start hiring them to settle their accounts. On April 15th, 1990, Souflas murdered Pavlos Katsafareas and his wife, Canela, in Laconia. This is a case that was solved many years later, when many members of the organization had already fallen into the hands of the police and confessed to one crime after another. Despite all this, the name of the organizer remains unknown to this day, as well as the reason. The also tragic part of the case was that the couple's daughter herself was initially arrested for the murder. "As long as I live and exist, I will deny that I killed my parents," she will say. "I am innocent. I loved my parents." And yet, in 1991, she was sentenced to 2 life sentences and remained in prison until 95, when the Court of Appeal will acquit her. The gang is looking for clean weapons. On March 17th, 1992, they will stop in front of the main gate of Camp 305 Lieutenant Colonel Roca in Mandra and shoot 4 times the soldier Adonis Vamelos while he is standing guard at the main gate. He will be dragged dead to the ground and stripped of his weaponry. Years later, when the murder of an unsuspecting infantryman is tried, it will be proven that, through evidence, Souflas was among those who shot him. When Theodoros Katifidis, a member of the organization, will fall into the hands of the police, he will open his mouth, and many unsolved murders will be solved. So according to the case file that will emerge in 1996, Souflas, together with another unknown accomplice, will execute the car dealer Kostas Vakos on March 3rd, 1992, inside his own shop. The motives for the killing and the identity of the organizer will not be recorded in the Katifidis testimony or in any other testimony. According to the same documents, Souflas will also take part in the robbery organized by the crime syndicate at the branch of the National Bank in Nigrita Seron, where the cashier, Yorgos Karagiosis, will be shot dead. The robbery will take place on July 5th, 1993, and the executioner of the unfortunate employee will again be Souflas. In the same year, a few months later, on December 17th, he will execute the stallholder Vasilis Barzokas, together with Sotiris Kousis. The The second had information from a person around the stand that he kept a lot of money inside a cigarette station. It is important to say that since August 1992, the leader of the gang is himself. That month, the police had raided a country house, arresting most of the members of the first generation of the crime syndicate. Souflas will be the one to keep the syndicate alive, recruiting new people and now continuing as their leader. On February the 13th, 1993, Evangelos Paragiakos will fall dead from the bullets of Souflas and Kaltsas. The perpetrators were waiting for him outside his home in Nea Erythrea and executed him in cold blood. In the court documents, it will be said that the murder of the finance manager of the big Athenian club was suggested to Vasilis Souflas by a certain Themis who presented himself as a Mamounia club boss. The henchman explained to him that Paragiakos was his rival in protecting the shops and gave him 2 million to get him out of the way. Although Souflas was quite hesitant because he didn't want to get involved in gang wars, at least not yet, he eventually signed the contract. The reason he did not want to get involved was the very good relations he maintained with many people of the Greek Mafia. For example, the big name of the protection racket of the 90s, Themis Kalapofarakos, very often hosted him in his own house or made sure he stayed at the London hotel in Glyfada under the pseudonym Stephanos Makris. However, according to another publication of the time, the order for the execution of Paragiakos was given by a businessman who had dealings with nightclubs and had many differences with him. It's not hard to imagine that something was very wrong with Souflas, and even before he even started getting paid to kill, this was noticeable. Growing up in Elefsina, people who knew the area said that Souflas' family, himself, his father and his brother Kyriakos, were the bullies of the area. They terrorized anyone, shooting even at human targets. Unpredictably and mindlessly, they were capable of anything. But his mental condition would worsen when his father and brother were killed in a car accident. From there on, the downhill spiral of murder he took had no turning back. As much as it sounds like a cold professional, that's not the only way it can be described. Two incidents later described by his former associates are typical. In October 1991, he shot a bystander in cold blood. In Aspropargos, a neighbor of his from Elefsis, because he considered that he had uttered something offensive to his brother. He then set fire to his taxi and burned it. Luckily for him, the taxi driver will not rat him out. The second time he almost killed someone for an insignificant reason was in 1992 in Alepochori. With Katefidis as his co-driver, he will pass a car irregularly, and the other driver, furious, will make the mistake of honking at him. Souflas will pull the handbrake and angrily get out of the car, ready to pelt the unknown driver with bullets. Katefidis will come out with him, and with desperate efforts, he will manage to calm him down and not execute the man, who saw a revolver pointing at him from nowhere. The argument that they would attract the attention of passers-by, and therefore they will leave, gifting the life of a driver who had no idea who he was dealing with. However, the fatal mistake seems to be made when people from the Greek Mafia approached him with the intention of murdering Kalapafarakos and some of his associates. According to statements contained in the syndicate's file, this time he will have no qualms. His colleagues, however, no longer trusted him. His strange behavior scared them, so they decided to get him out of the way. In the spring of 1994, his partner, Sotiris Kousis, together with another person, will lure him to a deserted location and execute him. They will then bury him, pouring cement over the corpse, so that they are sure that neither the rain nor dogs will ever reveal their secret. Kousis himself is now the leader of the gang, but the syndicate will not last for many more years. Murders, accidents and arrests would bring the final end of the organization by 1998. In 2007, the end of Kousis also came. Leaving a hotel in Melissa, where he was there for a few hours with a woman, a stranger will execute him with 4 bullets. The last professional shot finding him in the head. The 43-year-old life sentencer was out on an 8-day leave from Malanvrino prisons at the time of his murder.